from a bedroom in Lawrence, Kansas. It's the Film Dudes podcast, joined by Joe and Landon. How you guys been?
Been pretty good. How about you, Stu? Ert?
I feel like you tried to make that fit some weird rhythmic structure, but it fell apart so badly.
Yeah, that did fall apart. That's kind of how my day's going today. But
Well, shit. Why don't you give us an update?
all right. Well, I mean, today I was just doing stuff for my master's and I was working on certification. But uh, yeah, in the end, it all went well, and it just took me like 5, 6 hours to do it, and I'm just kind of my brain is still a little gummy.
Well, at least it's genuine, unlike a lot of things we're going to talk about on this show, because Joe and I did our research over the last week, and we've found some shit we want to talk about.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let's
uh,
hear it.
Before we get into Joe's rant, I think it's safer to start with mine. Um, I mainly was watching just a bunch of random stuff on Netflix. And then I was like, oh, tiny creatures. That looks adorable. Let's watch that. So I did. The first episode was about a kangaroo rat, a something hawk, a rattlesnake, and desert conditions. And as I was watching it, I was like, this feels weird. There's something about this show that just, like, they didn't show the rattlesnake actually killing the mother kangaroo rat, and that was like the first red flag for me because I'm like, this is a weird nature documentary that they're like making it kid friendly or something. Then as it goes on, the kangaroo rat that survives, quotes, uh, goes into a paint can that's being shot at, and no PETA loving motherfucker would ever want that to be shown. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this is 100% scripted. And so I did my research and I found a news article talking about how this guy in a Norfolk studio did all 8 episodes in 27 days, or I think it was like 27 days per episode, which is still a lot less time than most actual nature documentaries take. The thing that they did was they would swap out animals as they got tired or whatever. All the animals were really well fed, so they didn't actually eat each other, apparently. So, long story short, tiny creatures, I think that's the debate I want to get into here. Can it call itself a nature documentary?
Oh, this is bringing back so many fun memories of documentary class.
Yeah,
Oh
even though I
yeah.
just finished that up last semester as well too.
I was gonna
But
say, Landon, you were in that class, right? With
Yeah.
Sanchez? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge debate about whether like scripted, staged. I mean, look at Nanook of the North. People still call
yeah.
that a documentary, and that was just fully scripted.
Well, it wasn't.
So,
My argument on that when I had to write an essay, which, Jesus Christ, that was. I legitimately did as little research as possible. I never actually watched Danica of the North. But
And you can say that now since you got the grade.
yeah. And this probably won't be going out for another month anyway, so. But yeah, Nanak of the North is staged, but the ideas behind it were genuine, and so that's basically all I have to say on that.
well, I mean, one could argue that the ideas of, animals that you can't really, say, okay, you got to do this little squeaky or whatever. And yeah, so there is some genuine stuff happening there, but I do believe that it's a relatively similar argument that you would find with things like Nanook of the North, and honestly, I just think that it's about personal preference and how you want to identify or define documentary.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think we're ever going to come to a conclusion in the 55 minutes we have left of this week's episode. But I watched episode 2, which was about more of domesticated animals along the lines of a hamster, a chihuahua, and a feral alley cat, and also a peregrine falcon. And pigeons, of course. Uh, but it was like set in New York, but even then it wasn't actually in New York. Going back to the article I read, it was all staged, even like the sets and everything. And you can really tell if you have an eye for that stuff when you see these episodes. It's like this looks slightly out of place, like the way the lighting is and everything. It looks too weird uh, to be real. So I think episode 2 kind of changed my perspectives a little bit, having realized that it was scripted and everything, because like it it was just interesting, and I think it did allow them to do things that a nature documentary sometimes has trouble with, because you always hear the behind the scenes of like, oh, it took us 45 days to finally watch two zebras fuck each other or something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's taken me 60 days to see that, but
I was,
we'll talk about that probably not in front of our listeners.
I was gonna say, now you piqued my interest in that. I'm really curious how that's just the example that Stuart chose.
That just came to me spur of the moment. I could have said literally anything, but I don't know how or why.
Yeah,
There's some
and I'm a liar for the listeners out there. I have zero credibility. Do not believe anything that I tell you.
Except for the amount of beers you've had. That's like a fishing tale in reverse. I've
Yeah,
had this many beers. Holy shit.
yeah, I'm already on my third one, but hey, who's
Oh,
counting?
really? Now, is that third like quote unquote third, or third as in that's three?
It's my third one of the day.
Right, but is it like a can or is it like your third keg of the day?
I, well, right now I'm drinking Tall Boys, so
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
a
16
keg.
fluid ounce.
So technically that's like your sixth one.
Nah, I'd say
No.
like if it's my third and we're talking, yeah, let's do the math really quick, I guess.
Oh
It'd
We
boy.
got
probably
time.
be like five. Five.
Okay, like five, which could be four, five, or six. I said six.
Well,
Will it be one and
but
a quarter?
when you talk about a tall boy, it's kind of like you always have to ask them, okay, are you talking a can or a tall boy or a pint? It makes a
Yeah,
bit of difference.
yeah,
Uh,
that's if you pay attention to quantity.
I
Yeah.
pay more attention to quality than quantity. Unlike any
Yeah.
of my work that gets published on YouTube, but
uh, well,
Mm.
anyways, back to it. Daring small creatures. The first episode, did it like end out with the mouse howling at the moon?
yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen that documentary with my kids, and
Yeah. I
Yeah,
yeah,
mean,
there was
I felt like there's no way that this is that clean looking, and
yeah.
without it being scripted or staged
Plus
or something.
you have to factor in camera angles and the fact that they had like a perfect shot for like every scenario. It's like, okay, you definitely
Yeah,
had to set this up.
yeah.
So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, for me, the question when it comes, if it's the documentary, what's the um, intention behind it, you know?
Is
Because
it
I mean,
educating
if
an
you're showing
audience?
if you're showing a nature documentary and you're staging what does happen in nature, but you're obviously provoking it to happen, then I mean that's, you know,
Right. It's like the whole basis of a documentary can be kind of broken down into, is it educating an audience with real world scenarios? And
yeah,
I feel like that's a very, very, very basic breakdown of a description of a documentary.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean it.
if it meets that requirement, sure.
I mean, for me, it's the difference. Let's say a nature documentary, honestly showing something and like this is what happens in nature versus, you know, some PETA person filming something to advance their argument, which whitewashes some actual natural event. You know, that does that make sense?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so basically Tiny Creatures comes down to a gray zone, I think. It can be seen either way, but I, having watched another episode, and I'll probably finish the series because it's only 8 episodes and they're only like not even half an hour. So it's very well done. I have to give it that. And in order to film little tiny creatures, you do have to have the camera closer to them and everything, which is nearly impossible to do with
Yeah.
creatures in the wild. So, to be fair, they do have like habitats created and everything. Um, and it is probably more kid friendly. So, I think it can call itself a nature documentary if it wants to.
Yeah. I just feel like it depends on, your definition and criteria of what a documentary is. And yeah, I mean if it's just the basic simple, it's supposed to educate and inform and use live action. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't even have to use live actual because I mean, there's a lot of like documentary style, you know, like breaking down the cell or what happens with
Yeah.
your DNA replication and all that. That's not true real organisms that they're looking at. They're using CGI to break it down and give you a visual of like what the polymerase does and what replication looks like and all that. So
Hi there, kids. I'm Mr. DNA. You want to learn
Oh
how to make a
uh,
dinosaur?
I made my kids watch that this week.
oh yeah,
They weren't digging it.
they weren't digging it.
No, they were not digging it.
Oh god.
They felt bad for all the dinosaurs that died during the making of that film
What?
People,
because
There wasn't a disclaimer attached to that. No dinosaurs were harmed during making this film.
no, no, I'm
Huh.
actually,
gonna I'm gonna sue.
yeah, like this basically would defeat the PETA or the dinosaur equivalent of PETA. In order for Jurassic Park to make any sense, you would have had to let the dinosaurs die anyway.
I mean, I can't believe that, people were, here we are. Do you think somebody has already brought this up somewhere in some
I feel like probably, but I also
lonely
want to be
corner of
able to
film school somewhere?
I also want to be able to take credit as being the first podcast to think this through with very minimal degrees of thought put into it, but still thought nonetheless.
Who knows?
The we should start our own group, the Humane Dinosaurs Association, or Association for the Humane Treatment of Dinosaurs on Film.
Association for the Humane
Yeah, what would
Treatment.
our acronym be?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah, I'm
trying
trying
to.
to think.
It'd be HODF.
HODF?
It's
Yeah,
a work in progress.
very much so. Well, that only ate up about a quarter of the podcast, and we came to a pretty civilized agreement. So, Joe, I think we'll just transition and take a hard turn into Rantville, according to
Oh
what you
gosh.
told me.
Yeah,
All right,
this
I'm
is
ready.
this is kind of me doing my Lewis Black impersonation almost.
Well, for our
Okay.
listeners, let's just give them a bit of backstory into what you wanted to talk about, and then you can get as pissed off as you want to.
Yeah. Okay, so backstory. So I was checking up on our good friend Mel Brooks, everybody's friend,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of articles about Blazing Saddles, and I thought, oh, what's going on with Blazing Saddles? Well, reading across several articles, what I've gotten was that HBO Max has decided to add an intro to Blazing Saddles. And the person giving this intro is a film historian who has just recently been added to the list of hosts on TCM, Turner Classic Movies channel. And the intro is supposed to give a bit of background on the film, on the making of the film, pointing out that one of the writers on the film was the comedian Richard Pryor, who was supposed to play the part of Bart the sheriff, but ultimately did not because of his controversial reputation, and yeah,
Honky!
yeah, probably. I don't know if it was before or after, when he lit himself on fire,
Jeez.
but anyways, giving social context to the film and then saying that the racist statements and viewpoints and so forth in the film are given by how did they describe it? Ignorant characters, and if not ignorant, then downright villainous characters. While the right views, the progressive views on race, are espoused by the protagonists, Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder. And this is the second film on HBO Max to have this intro added, the first being Gone with the Wind. Okay, now that I've given the background, this is the most single fucking stupid decision made this year and an insult to everybody who was involved in making this movie. Because, seriously, for fuck's sake, it is a fucking comedy.
Not even just a comedy, it's a satirical comedy that what you just said that the intro is pointing out is making fun of exactly that.
Yeah. And the thing is, it to me, it seems like the channel is saying, oh, we have to explain this movie to people, otherwise they might get offended. Well, if they get offended, they're fucking stupid. I mean, seriously, if they can't watch this movie and figure out, oh, people they're making fun of is racist. This is actually a film against racism, then they have no right, any human right whatsoever,
Jesus. What a
to
bold
make
statement
any
there.
case against this movie. I mean, holy fucking shit. I mean, okay. And I have nothing against the person who provides the intro for this movie. I mean, it seems like something that should be in a film class saying, these are the people who were involved in making this movie and so forth. My problem is that you have to explain this stuff, that it's like, oh my gosh, we have to let people know that this movie does have racist stuff. Well, fucking shit, you have a rating system, don't you? You have a little rating that pops up saying, I don't know, 13 or R, sexual or suggestive material and um, adult language.
Nudity,
Yeah. Well, not in that movie, I don't think, but
smoking.
Lots and lots of
farting.
giant dick
Farting.
jokes, though, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, holy shit, this movie's been out since the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, we have to go back and justify this movie, which honestly is not only one of the greatest films of all time and one of the funniest fucking films of all time, but also one of the best attacks on racism and ignorance
I mean, the fact that Mel Brooks.
and politics.
Yeah. The fact that Mel Brooks then, like, pays tribute to his own film success in another one of his films. I think it was Robin Hood Men in Tights,
Mhm.
when they're like
Yeah,
a black sheriff, and it's like it worked in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, yeah, that
I
was
mean,
Men in Tights.
yeah, but it's kind of like if people are so offended by this movie and they don't get it, it's like then they should look it up. I mean, you have it's directed by a Jewish guy.
Yeah.
One of the writers is one of the most important comedians and one of probably the greatest black comedian in history.
Wait, who
And
wrote it?
then the main character is a black man. The
Wasn't
uh,
it Richard Pryor?
sidekick is a Jewish guy. So you were saying something, Landon?
Yeah, Stuart was asking who wrote it, and I thought you were referring to Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a team of writers.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I know Brooks and Pryor were on the team for sure. Who else was on it? I can't name right off the top of my head.
That's cool that Richard Pryor actually did do something with the movie in the end, though.
Yeah, I mean, he actually people went to Pryor a couple times. I know that when uh, they did Animal House, they were kind of scared about the scene in the black bar, you know,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and they were wanting to take it out because they were worried about, race rights. And he said, "You leave that in there, and every black person in this country will be laughing their fucking asses off." And he was right, apparently. I don't know. But it just doesn't make sense to me. And I think it's really getting to this point where everybody's so fucking sensitive about offending somebody that they have to go back and put a, a warning, a trigger warning on great works of entertainment and art. I mean, I can kind of see the point in somebody, and I emphasize kind of see the point on including an intro to Gone with the Wind. But Blazing Saddles, really?
Yeah, with Gone with the Wind, the fact that hardly anyone's probably gonna watch it these days
Yeah,
uh, is one reason why. Who cares if they have
yeah.
warning on it or
Well,
not? But yeah, it is culturally significant in some ways, but it's a fucking snooze fest. Let's be
I
honest. I
mean,
haven't actually seen the whole thing.
have any of us actually seen the whole thing?
No.
Yeah.
I've
I
been
mean,
meaning to for like 30 years, but I just
I
haven't
mean,
gotten around to it yet.
it just, people talk about it. It's like, I have not seen this movie, but I could have told you if you had showed me a poster and maybe a little synopsis of the film when I was like 10 years old, I could have told you, well, it's going to have some racist shit in it. Because, I mean, you're talking about the Civil War South. And let's be honest, the film was made in the 1930s, I think. And um, let's be serious. Film and television in that time was not always bright when it came to very serious matters like race and so forth.
I mean, it still sometimes isn't, but that
Oh yeah,
brings
no,
that brings me to a weird transition into something. I was watching Adam Ruins Everything, and there was a little sideshow bit where he talks about the Hollywood sign. And I actually probably heard of this before, but forgot about it until I saw this again. And Hollywood, I actually read Hollywood Land,
no.
uh, but it was a white only development that never got off the ground and the sign fell into disrepair. It was actually due to Hugh Hefner, the Playboy guy, who put up money to have the Hollywood part put back up or something like that.
Good old horny Hugh.
Yeah.
Uh,
R.I.P.
Yeah, that's
He
true.
got me through high school, or at least, or at least a couple of months in high school, I guess.
a couple months.
Yeah, after that, I knew how to talk to girls, and
Ah,
Damn, it only took you like two subscriptions to Playboy Weekly to figure
yeah,
that one out. All right, sign me up.
there was actually a comedian. Since we're talking about like nudity in high school and all that, he said that he like started masturbating when he was like 11
Oh my
oh my
god.
gosh.
because yeah, that's when girls wanted to stop sleeping with him or something like that. So it was funny
Wait,
on
what?
that sense.
The
The,
fuck?
the joke went something along the lines of, yeah, I started masturbating when I was 11 because girls wanted to stop sleeping with me.
Jesus. I mean,
Yeah.
we laugh and we think that that's god awful, but the worst part of that is historically, every textbook will basically tell you, oh yeah, that was like the average birth age for women to have kids back in like medieval London.
Yeah. Well, not
And
even that. I mean, that movie, Dark Shadows, and he finds out the daughter is, I don't know, like 15, 16. And he's like, you should be married by now. You should have like 3 kids by
that's what's really interesting is the whole like cycle of influence between reality and films, and then how films can then affect reality by just reality affecting films in a weird way.
now. Yeah, that is.
But getting off the psychological evaluation train here, well, we're only
Yeah, I
30
guess.
minutes in and we've pretty much solved the world's problems this week, I guess.
I
Well,
mean,
I wanted to talk about today. A couple nights ago, I watched Bubba Hotep.
What is that?
oh,
What the fuck is
what do you
Bubba
think of
Hotep?
it, dude?
What?
Oh, well, I mean, I wish that I could have been more focused, but the kids kept running in and screaming. So I felt like through most of it, I was like, I don't know exactly what's going on.
Right.
But I think that's just a normal reaction to watching Bubba Hotep. So
A
I've been
comedy
meaning to
horror
watch.
film.
It's so damn good.
yeah, Bubba refers to like a redneck or
It's got Elvis in it.
Yeah, yeah. Bruce Campbell.
yeah, Bruce
Elvis.
Campbell plays Elvis.
What is it? I think Ossie Davis is playing JFK.
Yeah, Ozzie Davis is Jack, a black man who claims to be JFK, explaining that he was patched up after the assassination, dyed black, and abandoned. Oh my god. What
Yeah,
the
I
it
mean,
it's a fun movie, but
hell?
I mean it's just ridiculous trash, and I love ridiculous trash.
well, the writer, I think it was a short story at first, but the writer Joe Lansdale, he's really into uh, stories that involve Texas and horror, pulpy stuff, B-movie stuff, you know. So, and Boba Hotep would definitely be a B movie.
What the hell?
Yeah,
So it's based around an Egyptian mummy terrorizing a retirement home.
yeah,
I mean, would
because
you not pay to go see that?
yeah,
I
because
would
he like
not
sucks the
pay to
life
see it.
stores out of their booty holes.
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
It's
What
so
the
fun.
fuck? Oh, it's like the worst version of John Coffey you could ever come up with.
Worst version of what?
John Coffey from The Green
Green
Mile.
Mile.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I caught the reference.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
took me.
god.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
well, that's some
but
film news
okay,
then.
to be honest, Stuart, thinking over the films you made me watch, this would probably be the best out of them.
Hey, I didn't
I'm not
exactly
talking about
chain
the
you to a
good ones. I mean the
radiator
bad.
and glue your eyelids open and force you to watch the films. I said, hey, let's watch this piece of shit together. It'll probably be somewhat amusing. You could have
No,
very well left at any
remember,
minute.
remember, you you're like, hey, let's watch this movie. I'm like, oh yeah, that looks awesome. Then you said, but you have to watch this other movie first,
Yes. And you
and I
could
can't
have
remember
just
what movie it
not
was.
paid attention to it.
Well, it's on the fucking TV. What the hell else am I gonna do?
Put some earbuds in
Masturbate
and
like
fuck around on your
you?
phone or something.
Well, that just seems kind of rude. I mean, if I'm gonna say it was a bad movie, I might as well, watch it and tell you why it was a bad movie. I mean,
You've ranted so hard that the noise suppression on Discord has just like given up at this point.
Yeah, you're cutting out. Take your
oh, am
thumb
I?
off the microphone.
I don't think my thumb's on the microphone. Fucking hell.
What?
Oh, fuck you.
I was reading this morning actually that hard drives on most anything these days are so sensitive that just shouting at them can actually cause problems. But if you blast a trumpet at it, it'll actually cause a full, uh, like, failure.
I believe that.
Yeah. Good thing I don't play trumpet.
Clearly, though, we've just proven that shouting at your phone fucks it up.
Yeah. Discoveries we're making. Okay. So Landon saw Bubba Hotep.
Yep.
Stuart, have you watched anything I mean, apart from the quote unquote documentary we were discussing?
Is that my cue to mention Goosebumps too?
Oh, I had almost forgotten you had said
It was forgettable.
that.
Okay, to be fair, I did watch Air Force One, and then there was still enough time in the day that I was just like, man, I'm really fucking bored. I'm just gonna watch anything at this point. So I was just scrolling around. I'm like, well, fuck it. I watched the first Goosebumps. I guess I kind of have to watch the second one just to get some
Mm,
sort of opinion of it.
I mean, you don't have
No,
to.
I really did not have to. It's honestly one of the most popcorn throwaway films I've ever watched in a long time.
Oh boy.
Jack Black doesn't even show up until like 2/3 of the movie have gone by, and it's only an hour and a half, so there's only like half an hour left. And then he's in it for maybe a grand total of 5 minutes, and they didn't even need him.
Hmm.
Sounds like Crossworlds.
And yes, the
I
real
mean,
R.L. Stein showed up as a really dumb cameo at the end again as well.
oh, well, I mean, I don't get, I mean, I can probably figure why they decided to make a sequel,
I
but
can't.
well, to probably cash in on whatever popularity the first one got.
Yeah. Honestly though, when I was watching it and when they first reintroduced Slappy, the ventriloquist puppet, um I can kind of get behind his motives, which I don't know what that says about me, but basically just don't be a dick and Slappy's not gonna really do anything to you.
Um, you're identifying with a villainous ventriloquist
Is
dummy.
he evil though? He's only evil because people made him evil.
I mean, this is kind of the whole argument that it goes into reworking the popular stories.
Or does it get into Who Frames Roger Rabbit and it's more of a Jessica Rabbit, I was just drawn this way argument?
Oh, yeah, I'm not even gonna touch that.
With a 39.5 foot pole.
Okay,
I don't know what to say to that.
yeah, I'm trying to think of a reasonable comeback, but I haven't.
Oh man, I just completely derailed this.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and get this back on the fucking track
I mean, at least we
before it
prepared
plunges into the
something.
fucking river,
At least we prepared
drowns all the
something.
passengers.
Choo choo.
Okay, so just this afternoon, I watched Knives Out,
Oh yeah.
and I'll definitely give that two thumbs up, honestly. I think it's the best mystery or whodunit, whatever you want to call it, the best one I've seen since Murder on the Orient Express,
Like the newer
and
one.
the most original since I don't know what.
The newest Murder on the Orient
Yeah,
Express. Yeah, so isn't Knives Out also an Agatha Christie story?
no, it's not.
It's not? I thought it was.
I mean, I think it's
Hello?
just as good as any of them, from what I know of Agatha Christie. Anyway.
Ah. Well, yeah, it was pretty good, and I enjoyed it enough that when I got the physical edition, I opened it and it's like, oh, check out our merch store. So I bought the gigantic mug. That's like my house,
Oh,
my rules, my coffee.
oh, yeah. I just like to see Daniel Craig do something other than, like straight up comedy, you know?
The thing with his accent though was so weird. Like, I get that. I guess that was the point, but why did you have to pick Daniel Craig out of literally anyone? The
Because
just
it is really fucking hilarious. I mean,
to hear a British guy do some weird Southern drawl. That's just like,
it happens.
why, hello there, I do declare.
We get an Irish actor like Daniel Day-Lewis to play Abraham Lincoln, who's from what, Illinois?
Wait, Daniel Day Lewis is actually Irish?
Yes.
Well, shit, he actually put on a really good American accent then.
Yeah. I mean, it happens quite a bit. So, and Daniel Craig did it before in Logan Lucky.
Yeah, and that was
I
fine, but like, why did he go so far out of his way to do this weird accent?
I just feel like he's definitely somebody who's just wants to have fun. What I think it might have been, what was it, Skyfall? It was either Skyfall or Spectre that he said he did on purpose his worst James Bond acting, and they still got him to do another Bond.
I think it was Spectre, because that's the one I watched, and there were times when it was like, he really just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. So I think he just wants to branch out and do stuff, and I mean, he's got that face that is both serious and comical at the same time. So when he's talking about the mystery being like a donut hole,
Oh god, that's yes.
anybody else, you would have turned your hearing off. But like when he's talking about it, it's so interesting, but so hilariously ridiculous at the same time.
Yeah, like it's so boring, but the way with his accent and everything, like you can't help but to pay attention.
Yeah. I mean,
Speaking,
go ahead.
oh no no, I'm gonna derail this if you're still going though.
I was just gonna say the only other person you could have gotten to have done the role would have been Christopher Walken, but that's it.
Okay, now that I hadn't even thought of, and that would honestly probably have made it even more interesting.
Yeah, maybe. But getting on to your next point.
Well, since you brought up James Bond, what do you guys think of the whole there should be a female James Bond?
Oh boy.
No.
Does that make us sexist though? Because we are three dudes who
No.
are all very pasty white.
No,
No,
it's not
I don't think it makes us sexist, but I mean, yeah, they can do like a female version of James Bond, but it should not really be James Bond.
that's
Janet
I feel
Bond.
like that's what they're doing with that movie Atomic Blonde is giving a female James Bond.
Mm, I forgot about that. I did see it, and it was okay.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
Not
I
something I'd
enjoyed
see
it
a
too.
dozen times, but
I really enjoyed the soundtrack.
oh yeah, yeah, that was good. My problem with the whole female James Bond is James Bond. wasn't isn't some kind of Doctor Who character or whatever. It is an actual character from a specific time in history, written by a specific person that's been carried on by other people with a specific look and manner and so forth.
I mean, should they even continue to make James Bond movies? Because at this point, I think it's very cut and paste. I mean, you could probably make a meme out of it at this point with first you get the girl, then you get the villain, then you get the pussy.
Something along that, yeah. I would agree that it's well, it's kind of been done to death, and I think that they actually have like enough films that they could probably not do that anymore. But I mean, if they come out with something new
I mean,
that's
yeah, each episode.
similar, I probably would not protest that. It's just I think the whole idea of James Bond. I'm sure James Bond by now is very tired. We should leave him alone and let him die in peace. But
I
um,
mean, the
yeah,
thing
like
with, I mean, there have been so many James Bond movies, and honestly, there have been a lot of duds as far as Bond movies go. But I think the recent ones with Daniel Craig have brought back a whole
y-
new energy and intelligence. Now, somebody might say something negative about most Bond themselves. I mean, otherwise, these are much better than. I know there are quite a few bad movies,
yeah,
but
the Daniel Craig. Wow, I just totally spaced out on his name there. The Daniel Craig ones are pretty good, but it's also, you got to commend the people behind the scenes, camera operators, special effects, all that sort of stuff. Because back when Sean Connery did it, it was like a lot of practical effects that even back then it was like, this probably didn't look that great.
yeah,
but I guess maybe the effects don't bother me or get to me as much as the stories, because obviously James Bond is a character created to be a spy during the Cold War. Well, since we've moved on from the Cold War, you know, the character has had to change. The story
Yeah,
thing,
that's true.
because let's face it, there were some pretty laughable moments in
Yeah.
the original.
Um, I think honestly for me, I'd be satisfied if we just saw like a good film that wrapped it all up, even if hell they just killed off James Bond. I'd be like, you know what? It was time for him to go. Not
But
that it was overly sexist and whatever. It's just that I think that'd be a very satisfying film for me. Is just kill him
uh,
off.
I feel
if
that's like
they
trying
like
to kill off Sherlock Holmes.
if they did a mashup of like John Wick and James Bond,
Ooh, we're like,
and John Wick ends up killing James Bond
yes.
or something like
Or
that.
they kill each other.
Oh, I would love that so much. I think we just found gold there.
I
Yeah,
mean,
somebody's gonna steal it from us though.
Joe, start
probably.
writing and submit it to that one National Registry thing.
Why am I always the one?
You're the fucking writer, you do it.
I don't have time.
But I have very ambivalent feelings. I mean, I feel like,
Fine, you don't have to be a part of it, just write it and sell it.
oh, okay, around the bit,
Maybe
right?
buy a new microphone with all that money.
I mean, Don't mind if I get paid. I mean, I just kind of have to. For me, James Bond is definitely one of those characters that's gonna outlive every person on Earth.
Yeah.
And well, maybe not Keith Richards. Keith Richards is probably gonna live just as long. But
Uh,
I mean, people are gonna be keep writing books and wanting to do movies. The it's kind of how we see people want to keep doing stuff with Star Wars or Game of Thrones or whatever else. You know, maybe not the main storyline, in the way of James Bond, but certainly filling in pieces here and there that.
Yeah. You mentioned Game of Thrones. First of all, do we think that George R. R. Martin will ever finish the final book? And second, is anyone at all remotely interested in that like weird prequel show that they're thinking about doing?
willing to take a gander at it, but I'm not really overly excited. For me, I don't think that it's a must see at this point, but
I
we'll
think
see.
I think Martin might get the book done. I mean, might finish it, maybe. I mean, it's taken him so long to write everyone. And as far as the prequel goes, I have no, I really don't.
I might watch the first episode, but I'm already pretty reserved about it. Not because of the whole season 6 nightmare that happened, but honestly, they said it was going to be like 1,000 years before the events. Who gives a shit that far back? Like,
Yeah,
it'll just be fucking tree people making the face, the white tree thing, whatever. I can't even remember the lore, the name of shit right now, but like it's gonna be really fucking boring. If it were like maybe 100 years before the events and we see like I don't know, the taking of King's Landing and we see the battle of Mad King Aegon or whatever it was. That would be much more interesting, but what could you possibly fill even one season, 12 episodes with of basically just forest people every single time?
I guess we'll
I
find
feel,
out.
Sure, yeah, but
I mean, it just really feels like it's trying to cash in on something and trying to rake in whatever uh, popularity or whatever they can get from the what's left over of the Game of Thrones fans.
Yeah,
I,
they're just trying to milk the cow dry.
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do a prequel to something, I don't think Game of Thrones is having already done the main the story already and how the past is pretty much well explained. You know, I
yeah,
mean, already got an explanation, I think, for the Targaryens, Lannisters, uh, all those families and a bunch of their mythology, whatever. The creation of what the fuck's that dude's name? The 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 villain, the
that
icy
narrows it
dude,
down.
the icy dude, whatever the fuck it is.
Oh, I don't
The
think he
Winter
actually had a
King.
name. He was just like the Night King or whatever.
Yeah, the Night. I mean, all that stuff is explained in the show. So what is there left to really go back and look at,
Well,
except in
because
some
some
cash grabbing
explanations
sort of
were glossed
masturbation?
over.
Yeah, but when you look at it, does that really change any of the viewing of the main story?
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see how like the Night King came about. You know, that really was glossed over. Maybe talk about how, why of all things, obsidian is their weakness. Like, go into the lore of just them. Sure, that'd be fascinating. Or, hell, even go, just do like a couple episodes on, the squid people. What, what was their house name? Um, oh my god, I can't remember a damn thing about Game of Thrones right now. The Greyjoys. There we go.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They have an interesting backstory to some degree.
Yeah. I'm I just think if you're gonna do a prequel to something, you just have to have a lot going for it. Like, okay, so there was this show on Stars, what was that? 3 years ago. It was called Black Sails, and it was a prequel to Treasure Island. And what really made it so worth watching was that even if you had read Treasure Island and you knew where the characters were at the time and what happened to them in Treasure Island, there was still a lot of mystery as to how they got to be the way they were. So you see what I'm getting at here, though?
Yeah, like there's some context to it, which is fine because an old book like Treasure Island, you know, everyone just knows the main storyline, so there's a lot to go off of that.
So, but okay, so do you think that George R. R. Martin will finish the series?
No.
Honestly, at this point, I have no idea. I wouldn't give him much credit. I'd love for him to because I enjoyed reading the books, and they had a lot of. The thing I was really pissed off about, being the massive Game of Thrones nerd that show turned me into, was that they just completely glossed over what happened to Catelyn Stark.
Really?
Yeah, like she actually. Is it a spoiler at this point? Because if you've read the book, you definitely already know what was supposed to happen. But basically, she survives kind of the Red Wedding, and she's brought back by the Lord of the Flames or whatever. And she's like this weird spirit in a body thing. Basically, they just let her go in the show, and in the books, she has like pretty impactful roles to play.
I mean, yeah, that's the bitch about adapting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I went into a show kind of late, really, and I haven't read any of the books. So,
You're definitely missing a lot then if you haven't read the books.
yeah, I probably am.
Because that's where a lot of the lore comes from, is the books. And what's really funny is I guess there's some trivia about how the showrunners got the green light to make it. Was a lot of people had already approached George R. R. Martin, and he basically just had one question that was like, "Oh, do you know who Jon Snow's true parents are?" or something like that. Nobody knew except for those two guys, and so that's the only reason they got the show.
Of course it did.
So
Yeah.
did anybody try the Game of Thrones Buffalo Wild Wings flavor?
What? Wait, hold
No, I
on.
didn't.
What is this flavor called?
It was what is it called? Dragon Fire. Yeah, they call it the hot dragon fire sauce.
Oh god.
And they did it just as like the series finale, and there was a special.
I didn't even see an ad for that.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well, I mean, they were like super spicy, which I love super spicy, so it was good. But I thought that they were just way too sweet.
I guess I didn't hear that either. If I did, I really didn't.
I mean, I was disappointed the one time I went to Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm willing to give it a try again, but really wasn't that good of food.
I liked it
Yeah.
last time.
But we've already lost one sponsor, I'm sure, by saying Buffalo Wild Wings is shit. So why don't we wrap
Hey,
it
I
up
said I
there
still
before
liked
we
it.
dig ourselves any more graves?
Well, Buffalo Wild Wings works in a pinch. There's the plug. There's your
That's,
plug.
that's
I
their
mean,
new
I feel like
slogan.
we've already lost a lot of possible sponsors at this point. So
Yeah, we're
after
only on
my,
the third episode and we're just digging holes every
yeah, I
time.
think I've already pissed off HBO Max and
Uh,
all of them. So and
oh
we
man.
pissed off all the feminists too, probably.
Well, I'm sure most of the viewers will write very interesting comments. Why the fuck was Joe's audio so fucking garbage this time?
He was talking with his hands like an Italian.
Well, you see, Joe had to take a little break.
Yeah, so
Well, yeah.
that's all I got to say about that.
All right, Forrest Gump, go enjoy your Dr. Peppers.
I'd rather have a beer.
You mean your eighth beer at this point?
No, I actually have just finished my third. I've
Ah.
been sipping on it.
I made myself a nice cherry cider with some blood orange fizzy water. That was an amazing combination.
That sounds pretty good.
Non-alcoholic too. Put some rum in the
Eh,
cherry cider last night. I must have overdid it because it was like, oh, this tastes like cough syrup.
yeah, you got to be careful with the ramen.
It was kind of bad.
Yeah, I always feel like rum has like a thick, sugary texture to it.
Yeah, but then it also has that wonderful hand sanitizer alcohol.
Oh, I don't taste that anymore.
Oh man, I still taste the alcohol in a lot of things.
You get used to it.
Well, anyway, before we start talking about craft beers and stuff and turning this into a vastly different podcast, we should probably go call that there. Um, we had some very impactful discussions. We actually did our research this time. And Joe has just already decided to leave before we're done with the outro.
There
Welcome
he is.
back. You're so ready to be done with this.
I don't know what the fuck just happened.
Oh, good. Now you have a stronger signal connection, probably, so we can. Welcome back, everybody, to the
Well, again,
podcast. Uh,
Fucking
Joe, you
hell.
had something you wanted to talk about. We were gonna rant about something for an hour.
No, I really don't know what the hell I was saying.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll let you guys actually sign off this time. Thank you all for listening, and actually, we will probably not be back for a while. I've got a funeral to go to, and then colleges are starting back up and everything, so we'll probably have to restructure our schedule. But before you go, I do have some exciting news that I have commissioned a piece of art for our little logo for the podcast, so a very good friend will be doing that. I just need to get him the dimensions for the file size and everything. But it'll probably look pretty cool. He's very talented, so I'll give him a shout out when it's done. But thank you all
excited to
again.
see it.
Yes, it's gonna look pretty cool, I think. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Thank you guys for helping me out with the podcast, and We'll be back at some point. But until then, toodaloo.
Adios.